Friday evening. Happy Friday evening. It is good to see everybody. Actually, I only see three of you. Ricky Jones. Good to see you. Miss Weir. Someone on YouTube who will remain nameless until they name themselves. But it's good to see everybody on the Friday of Memorial Day weekend. And happy Memorial Day weekend. And looking forward to this Sunday. I'll remind you that this Sunday is Communion Sunday and senior recognition, high school senior recognition. Congratulations to all you guys and girls who have finished up your requirements for high school. And so we're proud of you. And we will have high school recognition Sunday along with communion. And we're excited about that. So I want to check in on everyone this Friday. And I wanted to share a couple verses with you if I could. And this comes from 2 Samuel. I shared some verses from 2 Samuel and about how that Christians, when they make decisions, may seem strange to the world. Remember when David seemed strange to people when he didn't want to kill Saul, his enemy. He didn't want to kill Saul's son, who was the king after Saul, and he didn't, he didn't go through those processes. He didn't go into the city once he was king with the ark of God triumphantly. Rather, he went in humbly and he danced before the ark of God, and it seemed strange to people. And it was because, we said, of his perspective. Fast forward a couple chapters, and David has become comfortable in his position as king. And that can happen as, hi, Miss Marianne. That can happen to Christians. We can become comfortable in our Christian life and begin to drift away. And when that begins to happen, when we fail to maintain our Christian lives, when we fail to focus on our Christian lives, what can happen is the tables can kind of turn and we begin to see things incorrectly. This happened to David. David, you'll remember his sin with Bathsheba, the murder of Uriah the Hittite, his sin of apathy, which kept him home from the battle. And but you see Uriah when Bathsheba tells David that she's pregnant, David begins to hatch a plan to get rid of Uriah, or to at least hide his sin. So he brings Uriah in. His plan is at first to have Uriah go home to his wife, so it looks like the child belongs to Uriah the Hittite. Uriah won't do it. I want you to look at Uriah's perspective. 2 Samuel 11:11, Uriah said to David, the ark and Israel and Judah abide in tents, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are encamped in open fields. Shall I go into my house and to eat and drink and lie with my wife? As thou livest and as my soul lives, I will not do this thing. So now you see Uriah with the correct perspective, with a spiritual perspective, with a higher perspective. And my thought was, I wonder where Uriah got that perspective. Where did Uriah get the idea that that would be a good idea to have a different kind of perspective? My guess is that he may have got that idea from David himself. Maybe Uriah had a close relationship with the Lord, or maybe Uriah saw that as important because of the relationship even that he had with David. He knew that this was the kind of perspective we ought to have. Either way, it was a godly, a higher perspective. So David tries again, and then he hatches a plan to have Uriah killed. Once Uriah is dead, David, you see that David begins to see things incorrectly. You see how he sees things incorrectly because after he's dead, he sends word to Joab. And here's what he says in verse number 25. David said to the messenger, "Thus shalt thou say unto Joab, let not this thing displease thee, for the sword devours one as well as the other." Is that true? Yeah. Hey, man, people die. When there's a battle, people die. But notice that David had begun to excuse his sin. He had begun to hide his sin behind a correct, though misguided, thought process. So David says, "Hey, tell Joab that one person dies like another in battle, and people are going to die, so not to be too worried about it." The problem is David is just seeing life incorrectly. And I remember what Jesus told the Pharisees. He said, "If the light that is in you is darkness, how great is that darkness?" So you and I, we need to kind of remember, and we need to kind of think, why do we decide one thing is right and one thing is wrong? Is it because we asked this question, I think it was this week, is it because a friend of ours agrees, or we take the side of a friend, we agree with them, we support them no matter what? Why is it that we say one thing is right and one thing is wrong? Well, there's this godly perspective that we need to have, that we need to remember. And so I just want to encourage you today that God's right is just right, and not to drift in our relationship with the Lord, so that we begin to intentionally see things incorrectly. This is what David did. David said, "Look, when David was responsible for Uriah's death, he excused it with a sort of correct-ish thinking." And so that's the real danger that we have, is to be blinded because we want to see things the way we want to see them. And so, David went from being humble before God and seeing things correctly to living in this spiritual blindness, which we are all capable of because of our own pride and our own sinfulness and selfishness. Ken Johnson and David Knott, good to see you guys. So we have to be really careful about excusing our sin, excusing things just because we want them to be so, or we want to get away with doing them, or we want to do them. So David goes from seeing things correctly to not seeing things correctly. Our view of life doesn't need to be skewed by our lusts, by the lusts of our flesh. And that's, I know as much as anybody, very difficult. But let us remember that this is the call of a believer. The closer we stay to the Lord, the more we'll see things correctly. The more we say, "Hey, listen, I'm going to do this anyway because this is what I want to do," we begin to accept and allow apathy to creep in. We will begin to do and excuse things in our life that will ultimately be damaging to us and other people. So just want to encourage you with that this morning, or rather this evening. Let you know, hey, we're looking forward to seeing you guys at church Sunday, 9:30 and 11. Don't forget communion and senior recognition in both services. Then Sunday night service starts the 31st. We're looking forward to that. Happy Memorial Day. We are so blessed to be in the country that we're in. And so we're excited about that, and we want to remember that. And so, guys, we love you. We're praying for you. And if we can do anything to help you, please let us know. Have a great day, and God bless you.